This is Kilo, and this video is in response to one of our new subscribers, Kevin, who had asked about locksmith interview questions. He's new into lock sports, or newer, and he was wondering how much that would, you know, feed into maybe bumping him up above other candidates, how important lock sport skills are to a lock shop. And this is a question that many of my subscribers have been sending me. So I wanted to throw this together. It ended up coming to a top 12, and you guys will see why. And we're going to try and condense this video down to 10 minutes. So I'm just going to start running through them. Number 1. What made you pursue a career in locksmithing? This comes up right away. Depending on how you answer this will really set the tone of the entire interview. When you explain this, explain it with passion. Do not speak like a robot. Do not, drag on and ramble. Explain it very quickly. All of your answers should be about 4 sentences or less if, you want them to retain all of everything you just said to them. Question number 2, and these are in no particular order. They're gonna ask these in all types of orders, but these are in the 3 shops I've worked at. These are all questions that were asked to me. What sets you apart from other candidates? Explain your qualities and your skills. Explain, if you are in Locksport, this is the question that you really have to jump on because this is probably your only one to really answer. Explain all of your Locksport skills and how you applied those in a teaching format, how you showed somebody something, how you were able to explain something to somebody. And even in a weird off-the-wall way, you could even kind of explain it to them as if you were teaching them without sounding cocky. You could just give an example of, I explained this and this level, what a sidebar is, whatever it is. Condense it down to 4 sentences or less. Explain this, nail this, and you are at the top of the candidate list here. You'll be asked about your customer service skills. This is because they will leave you alone in the shop at some point to run the shop when everybody goes to lunch and everybody is out and the owner has to go pick up some supplies. It's going to be on you. How do you handle situations? Give an example of how you handled a poor situation in the store. If somebody came in angry for a refund, how you resolve that issue. If you've ever had experience in the field, if you went out to, if you're a delivery guy or whatever it is, and the customer was just terrible, how you resolved the issue and made them happy and made the company happy. Just give 2 quick examples and be confident in your answers. How would you rate your communication skills? This is a question that new hires always freeze up on. When they're asked this, they're trying to think, I communicate well with customers. Really what this question is asking you is how you communicate with your team, how you communicate with the boss, how you communicate with your company. A lot of companies use CBs and walkie-talkies and walkie-talkie apps nowadays. And if you can say, if you've ever had a job, if you were a truck driver or a tow truck driver, even some lock shops, medical, field, whatever, you guys can even bring up, the codes that you guys know. You can say, after I finished up my job, at 98, tell them I'm on a 1019, grab my supplies, refill, head back, I let them know, 97 on the, if you don't know what these mean, it's not a big deal. If you know what this means, it's really going to push you ahead. One job that I got, that was a huge factor. I had asked later, and he was like, the fact that you knew that, you just fell right in with the company. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, this question is all about how you communicate with your team. Number 5, how are your time management skills? This is huge. If you've ever been late to work, this will hurt you. If you are normally early to work, I was always extremely early. I was about 20 minutes early on average every day to my lock job. I would just be parked out front waiting to clock in. And the reason why is because when I'd show up, I would be able to get all of my tools together in order to load my van before I walked in to clock in. Like, I had everything ready. That way, all I had to do was, do my fingerprint to clock in, head back out, grab my sheet, and head out for the day, and then wait for them to just send me calls. Explaining something like that would definitely help you give details on how you handled some jobs, how, like, even if you're falling behind on a job, how would you restructure your schedule to be able to meet your deadline by, if it's a 9 to 5, how would you be off by 5 o'clock? Definitely something that you need to be able to answer to really nail this interview. These questions so far, this is the 5th card here, and if you notice, none of these are about lockpicking yet. So, that was a big question coming into this channel. Number 6, do you know how to master key? This is huge. This is asked at every lock shop I've ever been hired at, somewhere in the interview, right after all of those questions. Do you know how to master key? If you do not, it doesn't mean that you won't get the job. It just means that they're going to always look at you as a rookie. Definitely study up on how to master key. If you know how, they're going to ask how many levels. If you reply yes, they're going to say how many levels have you done. A lot of lock shop owners aren't really locksmiths. They just kind of buy a shop, or they inherit the shop, or they marry into the shop, and they really have no idea about the real terminology of this. So you don't really have to worry about saying levels, or however, there are multiple terms, a grandmaster system. Sometimes they don't even know what a grandmaster system is if you say it like that. You could just go with the levels format and it's fine. Explain it, because a lot of your job is going to be, in commercial, it's going to be master keying. And if you can answer that, you are going to really set yourself really high on the, candidate list. This has been asked at every lock shop I've ever been hired at. What is the common backset when installing a fresh lock set? When I say a fresh lock set, I'm saying when you show up and the door has no holes cut in it whatsoever, and you have to be the one to, bore the hole to fit the doorknob and the deadbolt that the shop gives you. We have had shops where guys have said they know what they're doing, and they eyeballed it, and the hole was cut horribly, and it's a really tough fix, If you can't answer this question, just the common backsets. If you don't know it, definitely study up on it. I'll be doing videos on this. Just gonna breeze over this one real quick, but if you can't answer this, you may not even get the job. Can you explain max? I have a video on this. Why is it important? If you'd like to check that out, here's a link right here. Really explains this entire question. This question will come up in every interview. Key identification. This is huge. Even if you can't really identify all of the keys, because there's just thousands of them. I have worked with guys who could identify keys. All you had to do was just hold up a key from across the room, and he just knew what it was. He'd been a locksmith for like 40 years, so he was just amazing at it. You don't have to be at that level, but you do have to, if they ask you, can you identify keys? You can say, yeah, I can identify, the KW1, the SC1, the M1. If you just say those 3, which are like 3 of the most common that'll come in to be duplicated, they're gonna like you. You don't really have to go on and on and on and on about all the keys. But that's not the only part of this question. If you want to really show them that you know what you are talking about, I've made this little chart here. Most people call this the head of the key. This is actually called the bow. The shoulder, let me use a pick here to kind of point out. This little shoulder that falls off here, right here, this piece is the shoulder. The shoulder prevents the key from pushing too far into the lock. So that is called the shoulder. This whole long piece of the key is called the blade. And where most people call the cuts or the teeth, this is referred to as the bitting. So if you wanted to go the extra mile to explain, a key, definitely, I just want to throw that in there to help you guys. What does a key code represent? You can explain this, in layman's terms and just tell them, that's the cuts of the key. Again, going back to that chart, you can say it represents the bitting. So, you can go even more in depth real quick and say, on some keys like master keys, master lock keys, they have, numbers and letters. So you would input that into your code software and come up with the bitting and go ahead and originate it on your Blitz machine. Or, if you don't have a machine, you can use space and depth keys. If you can mention, throw those in there somehow, very, subtly but confidently, and let them know that you know what these things are, you're probably going to get this job. I will just tell you that right now. If you can throw things in here like space and depth keys and Blitz machines and code cards and things like that, you're definitely going to get the job. Can you identify Schlage, Everest, or Primus? This is kind of a funny question, and it's been asked at 2 of the shops I was hired at. They want to know if you can identify the difference between a standard Schlage, an Everest, and a Primus. The markings on them. Explain how to identify it by just looking at it. And I also added smart lock because they now have smart locks available with the SC1 keyway. And they also will probably somewhere in here ask if you can identify a smart lock and how. Can you impression a key? Even if you are not confident that you answered any of these questions with like the utmost confidence, if you can answer this with a yes, and if you nail the how, you'll most likely get the job. As long as you answer the first half of these questions, the customer service ones, well, this will just set you apart. My first locksmith job, I went in just after taking a course, for locksmithing to get a foundation, because nobody would call me until I took a course. I wasn't too confident in much of my ability because I'd never really done anything in the field, but I did know that the course really emphasized teaching me how to impression a key. And once they did, it taught me how to pick locks, and it gave me the better understanding, and I could pick locks a lot better once I learned this. Once I said I knew how to impression keys, I was hired at my first job. I was the only locksmith at that shop who could impression a key. I was asked every time a lock came in that needed to be impressioned, I was the one, tasked with that job. I even ended up in my first month into my second month teaching the others how to impression keys, and when the owner saw that I was teaching them and my teaching ability, he promoted me very quickly to my own van, and I was out doing jobs by myself. You can explain how to do this with the needle files, or if you have a handheld Lishy cutter and you know how to use that, definitely throw that in there, and you will look like you will definitely walk out of there with the job if you can answer this question. And just the rest of the questions, if you can just get through them well and answer this confidently, you'll get the job. So just to go over it real quick, all of the kind of just a summary. The owner or the hiring manager is looking for leadership quality and skills in every answer, and a quick response. When they ask you a question, you want to be able to respond immediately. You don't want to take 5 seconds to say, yeah, well. You don't want to do any of that. You want to, if they ask you, do you know how to impression a key? Yes, and this is how. Confident. You want to be very confident. You don't want to be overconfident, but you want to be confident in your skills, not shaky or anything. They want to know that they're getting a quick learner, somebody that if they show you real quick, even if they want to give you an example and say, this is how to shim a lock. Watch me do it. Can you do it? If you can knock it out, practice beforehand. If you can knock it out after watching that, they're definitely going to like you. They want a self-starter, someone who could just hit the ground running. They want someone who has their own tools. If you say, I have my own lockpick kit, I have my own drill, I have my own jigs, I have this and bypass tools and this and that, you're definitely going to look amazing to them. Somebody who is self-motivated. This is huge because a lot of guys going into their first locksmith job with no experience are like, this pays $20 an hour, right? This pays $40 an hour. There are people that believe that you'll walk into your first job making $25 an hour, and they don't want to have to say, okay, if you knock out this many houses today, you'll get this amount of money. You'll get this bonus. They want to know that you're going to show up and knock it out the park on your own, even if they have no incentives. Having transportation, I wrote on here, because working on the other side, watching, people be interviewed, one thing that I have noticed of lock shop owners and owners in general, mostly mom and pop style, if they watch a candidate be dropped off by a friend, it really lowers their respect of that candidate. And I hate to say that, but from watching, lock shop owners at these shops, they really don't like to see someone be dropped off. They like to see you pull up in your own car. So I don't know why that's a big deal, but it is. Some of them have said, it shows me that they're never going to be late, if they pull up in their own car. I'm like, maybe that's their car. Like, some people share cars, it's what it is. I don't care if you took a bus to get to work, but some guys do. Passion for the job in every one of your questions. Make sure you're passionate and you have a real passion for every aspect of the job. Your communication with the interviewer, eye contact, handshake, your posture, all of it. The way that you answer with confidence and a willingness to learn, and I wrote ego here. These go hand in hand. I have seen guys in the lock sport community come in for interviews, and the biggest red flags are they'll walk in and they'll say, I've been picking locks for years. I can pick everything from this to that. I can bypass this. I can show you how to do that. I can run your business better than it is now. I can bring you guys all the money that you need. I can take this shop and make it this and that. And all that's telling the shop owner is, hey, I think your shop sucks. You need me to fix it. You want to get rid of that ego. You're like, the second you start talking like that, you'll lose the interview no matter what. So definitely, say, I'm always willing to learn, even if you think you know it all. You don't. It's not the same. Even these we had a guy who was in the lock sport get hired, and we took him out to his first lock pick, and he struggled, and it was a very common lock. And it's different when you have only went to the hardware store to buy a lock and pick it on your desk, and then you get to the same or cheaper version in your mind of the lock that's been sitting on the the door or the gate for 30-40 years. It's all seized up and gunked up, and the pins are just overset regardless, and it's not the same. And then it's also all of that plus the customer's going to be breathing down your neck, complaining the entire time, because in their head they can lock themselves out 5 minutes ago, but their mind, they locked themselves out 4 days ago, and they're like, you should have been in here already. And being able to handle pressure, being able to pick locks under pressure, you know what I mean? So one thing that you guys may have noticed is there were no real lock pick questions in this. If you guys are amazing lock pickers, like I said, that second question, you guys can throw that in there very quickly. Where your lock sport knowledge and your skills set will come in is after you nail all of these questions. You will be able to show that off once you are hired. What will happen is you will get sent to a lockout, and like my first job, I got my first job and I got sent to a lockout, and I picked the lock in like 30 seconds, and they were like, okay, we're going to start sending you. That was it. I was really the only locksmith at my first shop who could pick a lock. The other guys used to just drill the locks, or they would use an actual credit card to try to open up a doorknob. That's where it's going to come in. You're going to be able to show that off once you get the call. It's not very common of a call, but it does come in. And if you grab it, if you're always ready and you're quick and you're finished with your rekeys and your lock, your auto lockouts, and you see a home or a business lockout, and you can grab it and you can show them like, hey, it took me less than 5 minutes. That's what they want to see. Lock shop owners don't really like you to spend more than 5 minutes picking a lock. They would rather have you, the majority of them seem to would rather have you drill the lock and sell the place a new one to make the shop more money. I don't like that method, but a lot of shops do. So, this is just kind of a general, bunch of questions that I've been asked at all of my shops. And I just wanted to, help all of you guys. I tried to make this 10 minutes. It's now at 20. I apologize, but I'll end it here. Hopefully this helped you guys. If it did, feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. As always, stay safe out there. Good luck to you guys, and have a nice day.